Sega is adding a new entry in the Judgment and Yakuza universe. We get our final look at Final Fantasy Remake Intergrade before it launches. And I've got reviews of Guy Ritchie's Wrath of Man and the new superhero show on Netflix, Jupiter's Legacy. All that and the latest and everything cool today in The Rundown. Hey, welcome to The Rundown, everybody. My name is Victor Lucas, and today's episode is brought to you by The Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments happening every weekend. You don't want to miss out on the action. And of course, you can join up with them at tgs.gg. All right, today's episode is actually dedicated to our friend Spidey82, who was first in the chat room and always has some wonderful things to say in this incredibly positive community that Electric Playground has built, and I'm incredibly grateful for. But let's get started with your rundown. Sega threw a very fun World Media Conference today to talk about a new addition to the Yakuza franchise and the Judgment franchise. We just got the Judgment game ported over to next-gen consoles not too long ago, but later this year we're going to be getting a sequel called Lost Judgment. And what is happening in this game, just like we saw in the first Judgment title, I streamed it not too long ago and had a very good time with it. It feels a little bit like it's from the Yakuza universe, but what we saw with Yakuza Like a Dragon is that a lot of the gameplay in that title has shifted to turn-based role-playing experiences, and Judgment, although it has a huge, investigative kind of component to it, as well as court cases like we're seeing right here, it also features some pretty action-packed combat, and that's exactly what is going to be happening with Lost Judgment as we move forward, and Judgment as a separate franchise, because that's what Sega and all of the developers over in Japan are looking to do here. They're trying to kind of diversify the lineup. It blows me away how many Yakuza games have come out, or Yakuza side stories or tangents at this point. But Lost Judgment looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. There are, of course, murders that need to be investigated and people that are framed and all kinds of different characters that you have to interact with. And, once again, Sega is just pulling out all the stops to motion capture these conversations and these fights. And, you really kind of are taken aback by the production quality of these experiences. They don't hold anything back. The worlds that we get to go to, and in Lost Judgment we're going to Yokohama, which I believe was the same vicinity of Like a Dragon, so conceivably we're going to start to see a lot of crossovers and Easter eggs and little threads that kind of tie these franchises together, and I'm okay with it. But what we see in these games is that they're not Grand Theft Auto. They don't create a whole open world city in Japan for you to go anywhere in. It's kind of a little bit more tailored, but of course there's all kinds of great side missions and side stories, and Sega is wonderful at harnessing the power of its arcade history and letting you play those games, which is really cool. But Lost Judgment is going to be coming out later this year. I think it's going to launch in Japan, and then it will eventually be localized and be put all over the place. I'm not exactly sure. I don't have the exact date in front of me, but this news is just hitting today. Lost Judgment is on the way, and it looks like it's going to be a blast. All right, we also know that there is more coming for Final Fantasy Remake, Final Fantasy VII Remake very soon. It's called Intergrade, and it's going to be launching on the PlayStation 5 as an exclusive, but it's not going to be exclusive forever. And of course, this is going to take all kinds of enhancements that the horsepower of these machines is going to be able to accommodate. You're going to be able to play as new characters. There's also some new mini-game type experiences for you to have. It's really kind of, as the name kind of suggests, sort of like a tie-do-over type of experience until we start to learn more about Final Fantasy VII Remake 2, the sequel to this, the full-fledged sequel to this. But the visuals look incredible in this title, and we don't have very long to wait to be able to jump in. And one of the cool things with this game is that if you already own it on your PlayStation 4, you can get the upgrade up to Intergrade. And look, this looks like a little bit like Final Fantasy Tactics here, which is so cool. This looks like a total blast to jump right back into. And quite frankly, I'm just excited to be able to play the incredible Final Fantasy VII Remake on the PlayStation 5, and you can bet that I will be streaming this when it comes out. I think June 11th is the date, and boy, it sure looks pretty, right? What a gorgeous looking game. Cannot wait for that one. All right, I've got a couple of other things that I wanted to get into, and they're a little bit, it's reviews on the run, which I am incorporating into the rundowns, especially on Friday, because we got into this routine of taking a look at Invincible episodes, and WandaVision episodes, and Falcon and the Winter Soldier episodes. Well, today I've got a movie, and it's from Guy Ritchie. Guy Ritchie's Wrath of Man, starring Jason Statham, is hitting VOD, I believe, today, and then there's also going to be a Blu-ray release a little bit later on. And this is a caper movie that Guy Ritchie is kind of famous for, filled with a lot of actors that you've seen in tons of other things, including Josh Hartnett, Holton McCallany, who you've seen in Mindhunters, is in this movie. And there's lots of other characters. Scott Eastwood is in this thing as well. And this is a movie about the criminal underworld, and Jason Statham plays a character named H. And what we see at the beginning of the film is that he's trying to integrate into this armored car service and be just one of the regular the security detail people that travels with an armored car. And he's kind of going undercover because he's got his own personal reasons for wanting to travel within the armored cars. And if you see the trailer, I've got a few clips of the trailers in the review here with me, and it's not hard to figure out why he wants to be a part of the armored car service. But what, this kind of lets Guy Ritchie do is something that he's very famous for. He's got brutal people. Usually there's a bit of a quirky sense of humor with a lot of the cast members, and usually he sets a lot of his sort of crime capers in the UK, and it's always filled with colorful characters like we just saw in The Gentleman not too long ago, which I actually happen to enjoy quite a bit. This one is a little bit more down the barrel. It's a little bit more straight-laced. H, as played by Jason Statham, is kind of humorless. He's incredibly dour and serious all the way through it. He's on a vengeance mission throughout the film, and he doesn't really, there's no comedic sort of elements to this. He kills because he has to, and he kills effectively, and everybody is completely shocked by how, much of an incredible killer he is. But he never smiles. He doesn't smirk. He doesn't relish this stuff. It's all just kind of the day job for him. And he does it effectively. I mean, he's kind of almost like a Charles Bronson kind of character in this movie. And he does a darn good job at, convincing you that he's as skilled as he appears to be on screen. He also seems to be incredibly bulletproof because there are, incredibly crazy sequences in this movie, as you would expect out of a Guy Ritchie movie, where bullets are just flying everywhere. Everybody's got like high-powered machine rifles, and they're just blasting everything. And somehow Statham can walk through the hail of bullets and manage to survive, which was pretty crazy. There is a lot of death and destruction in the film. It doesn't pull any punches that way. There's also this really kind of oppressive soundtrack. It's really heavy, and it felt weird for it to be a Guy Ritchie movie because you expect to be, uncomfortable, but also, squirm and laugh a little bit. And in this one, you're just kind of uncomfortable, but there's no joy, there's no levity, and you feel kind of bad for what Statham goes through, but also just the darkness that all of these characters have to kind of endure, and so I don't want to spoil too much about the explicit elements of the plot. But Guy Ritchie is very, very talented. He can turn like a straightforward film like this that doesn't have a lot of the flash or the, a lot of the sort of pizzazz that we kind of associate with Guy Ritchie. It still freaks me out that he directed the live-action Aladdin movie for Disney. That just felt incredibly incongruous for compared to his resume there. But he can turn even a straight-laced film like this into pretty compelling stuff. It was hard to kind of take your eyes off the screen, even if it didn't it didn't blow me away. It didn't shake my world like some of the best stuff. And yes, Post Malone is an actor in this movie, which was surreal. And Scott Eastwood's got a pretty good turn in it. And there's a lot of other famous faces and other people that you know that will pop up, because I think everybody wants to work with Guy Ritchie. So it's not Guy Ritchie's best, but it's absolutely watchable. And it's oppressive, but, elegantly made. With interesting characters, and it's no Michael Mann's Heat, but it almost feels like he took the armored car sequence in Heat and then wanted to make a whole movie around the armored car, the life of the armored car people. I didn't hate it, though. I thought it was pretty cool, and I am a big fan of Guy Ritchie. I think he's made some excellent work over the years, so I'll watch pretty much anything that the man creates. I'm going to give Wrath of Man a 7 out of 10. All right, I've got another review that I want to do for you guys right now, and that is for the new Netflix superhero show called Jupiter's Legacy, which I watched a bunch of the episodes today. I've watched half of the season so far, so I haven't completed the whole season, and so I guess the review is more of a, am I going to keep watching and how am I liking it so far, kind of retrospective on what I've seen, and once again, it's a world of superheroes. These are superheroes created by Mark Miller, who I'm a huge fan of. Helped to bring the Ultimates out to the Marvel universe, and I think also kind of laid the groundwork for what we know on screen as the MCU. And he also created Kick-Ass and Wanted. He's got an incredible resume. He created the Jupiter's Legacy comic series with Frank Quitely, who is one of my favorite artists in the whole comic book universe. But these are characters that we don't know. Josh Duhamel plays a character. What's his name? The Ultimate. I forget what the guy's name is. I keep trying to remember what the character's name is, and I haven't read the books, so it's like I've got a whole cast of superheroes to get to know again. And which is funny because I just had to learn all the superhero names in Invincible. And I have to say that I'm not enjoying this show as much as I ultimately loved Invincible yet, but it is getting its hooks into me, and partially it's because, again, we've got a pretty interesting cast of characters, actors that you've seen in different things, popping up with not only sort of present-day manifestations of their characters, but also this works with a lot of looking back in time. There's like a 1929, 1930s kind of vision for the show, which is the origin story. And what we see, as the Legacy's name implies, is that this is a show about family and how this family that kind of has this rags to riches tale during the Depression perseveres partially through the superpowers and the relationships that it has, but then also that extends into the family dynamic and what it's like for Josh Duhamel's children to also have superpowers and all kinds of expectation placed upon them to be super beings that live to a code and aren't killing their enemies. And the villains in the show are incredibly severe, and they get up to some pretty brutal stuff, and so we see that code really tested, and it's kind of central to the whole plot of the show. And it does feel quite a bit tamer than stuff that we saw definitely in Invincible, even though that was an animated show. It was unbelievably violent. There is violence and some heavy elements in Jupiter's Legacy, but it doesn't go as far as The Boys does. And even as far as Umbrella Academy did in some of the sequences, although I haven't watched the whole first volume, they're calling it. But I am intrigued and I am pulled into this experience. The effects are pretty damn good. There is an amazing team super battle in the very first episode where you see a whole bunch of powers that all of these different actors and characters have, and they're all fighting a common enemy, and no punches are pulled, and all kinds of really cool special effects are employed, and it was thrilling. It evokes a lot of the stuff that we've seen on the big screen in the Justice League movie and some of the Avengers stuff. It's not quite that big or quite that good, but it's pretty impressive, especially for a streaming show. And I think it's This is a show working on a bunch of different levels. It's really kind of trying to show you this period piece drama, how these regular people become super beings, how they grapple with that. And again, this is another show where you've got characters that are also trying to have a real life and grapple with what everybody wants them to be, including a supermodel. The character's name is Chloe, who just wants to kind of shut down the whole superhero side of her life. And is addicted to drugs, and she's got some, a dark storyline to show off, and you can kind of feel like maybe there's going to be some kind of a redemption arc. But I'm projecting, and I don't know where this is going to go because I haven't read the books. I do find it incredibly enjoyable, even though it's very crowded. I don't know how you guys feel about superhero shows at this point. Have we had too many? I mean, when you include the stuff that's on the streaming services, the stuff that HBO Max is paying for, all the CW stuff that's coming, have we hit the ceiling on this? As far as your interest level is concerned, or do you still want more? Are you excited about Jupiter's Legacy? You're going to tune into that this weekend? I will say Netflix dropped all of the episodes today, and so you can watch it all in one day because not all the episodes are an hour long. Some of them are about 30 minutes long, and every episode ends with an amazing cliffhanger. That's something it's really hard to walk away from the show. So I think that is a sign that it is a good show. It's a compelling, addictive show, but I don't know how it stacks up comparative to all the other great superhero shows that we are spoiled by right now. But I think this first experiment with Mark Millar, because what happened is Netflix bought Miller World, or the rights to the Miller World franchise of properties that Mark Millar is kind of responsible for, and he's going to be creating other things with Netflix. I think this is a pretty successful launch because it's the first one that they're doing, and we'll see if this gets picked up for a second season or renewed for a second season, and what else they've got up their superhero sleeves. But I'm in for Jupiter's Legacy. I'm going to watch the rest this weekend for sure. What I've seen so far, I would give an 8 out of 10 to. But very curious to hear your thoughts on Jupiter's Legacy. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for the rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with more news and a fresh episode for you on Monday, so please come back for that. In the meantime, check out all the other content that we've been working on, and if you dig our stuff, hit that subscribe button and that little notification bell. And thank you to our subscribers and all of our EPN members. We'll see you soon, and until then, play forever.